Since the 1970s, the National Football League has had its eye on exporting American football globally. Beginning with the Chargers-Cardinals preseason game in Japan in 1976, the league has taken great measures to market American football to an international audience by playing regular season games in England, Germany, and South America, and even launched a development league from 1991 to 2007 in what came to be known as NFL Europe. Though various nations around the world do play American football in an amateur or semi-professional capacity, the popularity of the game in these countries has not reached anywhere near the levels of other sports such as soccer, rugby, basketball, or baseball. Interestingly, however, flag football has generated a massive overseas following in the past decade, having been played on the beaches of Asia all the way to the mountains of Austria. The NFL's contribution to flag football has proven to be a difference maker, as the league can use flag football to provide people with the excitement of the passing game and introduce them to the spirit of American football without the players falling victim to the physical pain of the gridiron game. With flag football having an estimated 20 million participants in over 100 countries, along with it being an official sport in the 2028 Olympics, it's clear that the NFL's mission to export the American game at its most basic form is succeeding, as athletes across the world are drawn to the spectacle of the passing game. But even if flag football continues to increase its international footprint, it raises the question as to whether or not flag football participants in other countries are truly interested in learning American football beyond the high-flying passes and acrobatic catches. Flag football is exciting in its own right, yet it doesn't incorporate most of the elements that make up American football's DNA: blocking, tackling, ground and pound running attacks, pass rush techniques, and formations. Without these core elements, can global audiences truly appreciate the beauty of American football the way the NFL intends it to? And if not, how can the NFL market these aspects of the game while overcoming the hurdles of trying to export gridiron football, such as the complexity of the strategies, the high cost of playing the sport, and the methodical pacing of the game? Perhaps the answer to this question can be found in our own backyard, in the heartland of America, where the smallest farm towns in the U.S. play a gridiron game of their own: the game of six-man football. The game may be unfamiliar to most, though schools in the Midwest and the Southwest have been playing this game for 9 decades. It consists of 6 men per side, requires 15 yards for a first down, and is played on a field 80 yards long by 40 yards wide. Kicks after touchdowns are worth 2 points, while runs and passes after touchdowns are worth 1 point. If a team trails by 45 points at any time in the contest, the game is over, known in the sport as the slaughter rule. Each man is eligible to catch a pass, but the first player to receive the ball from center must exchange it to a teammate first before he can move past the line of scrimmage. It's a fluid game in which players often drift between positions. Quarterbacks are required to block as well as they can throw, and scorers routinely venture into the 60s and 70s. Boredom Necessity by Stephen E. Epler, a Nebraska high school teacher who wanted to give kids in farm towns the experience of playing football with the limited resources available during the Great Depression. As a result, the 6-man variation of gridiron football has become a high-scoring affair full of downfield passes, broken field runs, solid open field hits, and ample creativity. The game has been the subject of numerous books and shows from the likes of NFL Films, Paramount Plus, and independent producers alike.
Every player is an eligible receiver. Quarterback can't run until there's been an exchange made. 6-man is a lot faster. It's more of a spectator's game. It's a lot more entertaining. Not unusual to see a 80-something to 60-something score. Anytime you're 45 points ahead at halftime or beyond, then the game is called.
Even serving as the backdrop for an early Ryan Gosling film, The Slaughter Rule.
Let's double up on 2, ready? Let's do it!
These stories have highlighted what the 6-man game represents to the citizens of the rural communities where resources and opportunities may be scarce, but pride is ample. Most of these boys will not play past high school, but in a game like this, recognition is meaningless. Playing the game is its only reward. In this video, we will explore why this novelty variation of American football could best be suited to teach the rest of the world the core principles of gridiron football and how it can help the NFL inch closer to raising American football's popularity overseas. While American football is beloved for its complexity, it creates a sense of bewilderment for just how complicated the game is, both in its strategy and rulebook. With 11 men per side and a rulebook the size of an encyclopedia, it's inevitable that newcomers and even casual fans who grew up watching the sport will never truly comprehend the game fully. With 5 less players per team on the field, however, the rules and gameplay of 6-man football reduces the complexity of the 11-man game. Since every player is eligible to receive a pass, numerous rules are removed or drastically simplified, such as ineligible men downfield, illegal formations, and illegal touching. By reducing the number of men on the field, it's less daunting for spectators to understand the responsibilities of each position on the field, especially when there are no restrictions on who catches a pass, making plays much easier to follow and the rules to understand. Even with the streamlined rules, however, the game maintains variations of plays, formations, and strategies found in the conventional game on a smaller scale. I formation, split backs, pistol formation, single back, and spread formations are easily recognizable to football fans seeing the 6-man game for the first time. Running plays such as ISO, outside toss, sweeps, end-arounds, reverses, and fullback dives are all found in 6-man football. The passing game is no stranger to those who play either, as pre-snap motions, play action, screen passes, high-low concepts, and the entire route tree is at the disposal for those in the 6-man game. Coaches have even found a way to incorporate triple option plays into the sport as well. These modifications simplify offensive strategies, yet maintain the aesthetics of the game. It makes the game easier to follow and allows new fans to quickly understand and appreciate the fundamental aspects of the sport without feeling overwhelmed. Additionally, field goals in 6-man football count for 4 points, and kicks after touchdown are worth 2 points, strengthening the kicking game's role in the sport that could appeal to an international audience that loves soccer. The reduction in players and field size also leads to a much more wide-open game. Breakaway runs are more common with fewer defenders to dodge, and long touchdown throws are commonplace. These factors lead to a much more agile and faster-paced game with frequent possession changes, in contrast to the methodical stop-and-go pacing of 11-man football. This also means more frequent scoring, which is something fans of any sport love to see. The openness of the game has an improvisational feel to it, similar to the flow of backyard football, where quarterbacks scramble to find a receiver before turning on the jets downfield for a long run. The continuous action and frequent scoring opportunities keep viewers engaged and entertained, providing a captivating experience that showcases the excitement and athleticism of the sport, similar to that of free-flowing games like soccer, basketball, and other forms of football. Furthermore, everyone on offense being eligible to catch and carry the ball translates well with an international audience who are used to watching sports in which everyone touches the ball, as opposed to American football, which has restrictions on who is allowed to touch the ball. Since everyone in 6-man football is eligible to catch a pass or run with the ball, all the athletes must be quick and well-conditioned, which provides more opportunities for smaller-framed and lighter-weight athletes that are better suited to keep pace with the speed and agility of their opponents. Men in the U.S. have an average weight of 199 pounds, compared to 160 pounds in Brazil, 170 pounds in France, and 127 pounds in Asia. While 11-man football at the amateur level doesn't require big bodies to play positions like offensive and defensive linemen, the 6-man game accommodates these body types much better since the traditional roles of linemen are eliminated, which makes the game more accessible to boys and young men with smaller frames in other countries who feel they wouldn't have the size to play traditional American football. 6-man football is also more affordable than the 11-man game. For a nation like the US that owns 30% of the world's wealth, it's no wonder that a game like American football can be so ingrained in our society from the youth level all the way up to the pros. Even for the 9 other wealthiest nations, like England, Germany, Japan, and France, it's understandable why American football has achieved some level of success at the amateur or semi-pro level in these nations. But with nations that fall below the top 15, it becomes a burden to have a society embrace such an expensive game. Nations such as Mexico and Brazil fall into the latter category, despite increased interest via television, social media, and flag football. Six-man football, however, could provide administrators and sports promoters in these countries an opportunity to expose young men to American football in a more cost-effective form. Though there isn't a uniform figure to reference as to how much money is needed to start a high school football program, the amount of equipment needed is far more in other sports and is inherently more costly, given the price of pads, helmets, jerseys, and cleats for at least 4 dozen athletes. Furthermore, traditional American football requires 11 players per team, not to mention the specialized roles and backups, which can be a significant barrier in regions where the sport is not widely played and therefore may not appeal to many participants. With a six-man game, however, the cost falls drastically, as most six-man teams have less than a third of the roster size than that of a normal high school program, and it gives administrators a lower participant threshold to put a team together. So while the cost would be greater than flag football, six-man football gives administrators and coaches in these nations a practical solution to provide young men the chance to play the same type of game they see on TV, with sacks, runs, tackles, but for a more affordable cost. Another benefit of having less players on the field and having lighter weight athletes is the reduction of injuries, due to less collisions on the line of scrimmage and the open nature of the game that spaces players out. Instead of 2 squads of linemen clashing at the line of scrimmage, you have smaller, faster players maneuvering in an expansive field. The openness allows for better evasion tactics, where avoiding a tackle is as much about finesse as it is about physicality. Though six-man football is certainly a physical contest that can leave players bruised and battered, the reduction in numbers and the modifications of the rules creates a less congested game that relies more on agility and speed than sheer force and power. Similar to the early days of American football, when the NCAA reduced the number of players per side and outlawed mass momentum plays. For these reasons, I believe six-man football has the opportunity to educate international audiences on the principles and characteristics that make American football unique, without overwhelming them with the complexities of the game, nor discouraging administrators and sports promoters over the cost it takes to play American football, nor the injuries that can come with it and the amount of participants needed to put together a game. A couple countries have already adopted six-man football at the high school and semi-pro level. Canadian high schools in Alberta have adopted the game to mirror Canadian football rules, and lower-tier semi-pro teams square off against each other in the Japanese X League. All of this isn't to suggest that the NFL or other organizations should stop promoting flag football, nor should the NFL pull back on their vision to make the 11-man game a global sport like soccer, basketball, or baseball. But by leveraging these advantages, six-man football can captivate new fans, foster grassroots participation, and serve as a gateway for the world to take interest in understanding the principles, fundamentals, and spirit of the gridiron game, thereby bridging the gap between the success of flag football and the end goal of turning American football into an international pastime. Who knows? Maybe one day the world will look back and realize that the future of football wasn't found in the mega stadiums of the NFL, but on the smaller makeshift fields in rural America where six-man football reigns supreme.